What's up? What's happening? Welcome here to Lacrosse Now. That is Tom Eschen. I am Travis Seldridge. We've got a big show coming up. We're talking to the new Providence head coach, Bobby Benson, talking about his offensive philosophy. Obviously won a national championship with Maryland this year and why Providence was the right fit for him. Plus, we also have NLL Finals MVP Dillon Ward joining the show.
We do. And Travis, nice shirt, number one. If you guys are watching the video portion of this, then you can see we're wearing very similar shirts today.
Slightly different colors, but the camera makes it kind of blend.
So that's number one, and first and foremost. We also have some headlines coming out of the PLL weekend we're talking about and looking ahead to this weekend, too. Interesting stuff happening, as always, as we're about a third way through the season
Happens
already.
quick.
I mean, this season's coming and it's going. But let's start with the NLL, because what a series, what a finals.
Unbelievable.
And what an upset victory. I mean, this is something, and like, you have a favorite and you have an underdog. It was pretty clearly defined here throughout the series. I mean, we had Jake Elliott on the show. We both predicted, even after game 2, that the Bandits would win. It was the Colorado Mammoth who got the job done, shutting down, for the most part, the Bandits offense, winning the championship, their first in the franchise. So, I mean, what a cool thing for this league in their first year back of being gone for a year and a half. To have it end like this, I think is really neat.
Unbelievable. I mean, the NLL Finals, if you didn't watch any of it, we had 19,000 people in the stands in Buffalo in the KeyBank Center. That is what this did for indoor lacrosse. Like, just seeing that on display was incredible. The atmosphere was unbelievable. But on the floor, what Colorado did defensively against the best offense in the league, and one of the best we've seen put together in recent memory here in the NLL, this Buffalo offense was held to single-digit goals once during the regular season. It was the last game of the year against Toronto, which essentially didn't matter for Buffalo. They were held once all season long, and Colorado holds them to single digits in back-to-back games in the biggest games of the year with Buffalo with a championship on the line. That is unbelievable. Like, what they did, that performance is just, like, remarkable.
And the question had always been, could Colorado score to keep up with Buffalo? And not only, obviously, they did the defensive job, they did enough there, but they did it in those games 2 and 3 without probably their 2 best scorers.
2 of their top 3 scorers in the year.
Completely not. I mean, Eli McLaughlin, he played in 5 playoff games, and they didn't have him after game 1. He led the playoffs in scoring. He didn't play in game 2 or 3, 2 games that Colorado won. He had 41 points in the playoffs. That's because other guys stepped up. Connor Robinson had the second most points in the playoffs in the 5 games he played, or 6 or 7, I can't remember what it was now. 38 points in total. But the guy, to me, that really kind of, I know Zed Williams had a huge series. We talked about him. He's one who really stepped up and was a producer for them. Tyson Gibson, a trade deadline acquisition. They got rid of Tyler Digby, a guy that had been there a couple years. They chipped out a draft pick as well. But remember when Gibson came out, and he was that top pick for the Riptide, and everyone talked about how much of a winner he was. Victoria Shamrocks, he won the Man Cup with them, and they liked him in the Riptide because he was a winner. And you could feel that he made some of those sneaky little plays. He had a couple points here and there along the series and over the course of the playoffs. To me, that really stuck out as you bring another guy that knows how to win in, and those kind of pieces are the difference between a championship and winning and coming in second.
Yeah, for sure. And along those lines, you mentioned Zed Williams, and the game he had in game 3 is just, I feel like, is what we've come to expect from Zed Williams. Like, this guy wins. Like, he was an unbelievable scorer. It goes back with what he did in high school as the all-time leading goal scorer in the state of New York, and all the goals he scored there. And he was a terrific player at Virginia. But then you look what he did in the PLL last year with the Whip Snakes, and how, like, that was Matt Rambo's team before. And then here comes Zed. Well, I guess it was in the championship series, but then last year continued it. Like, he has just this ability to take his teams to the next level. And a guy that, like, throughout the season, he was good, but, like, there were times it was kind of up and down. For him, like, it was just like something went on. He's like, all right, well, they need me to step up. Here we go.
He gives you exactly what you need. And we had Jake Elliott on a couple weeks ago now, and he mentioned Wazette. He goes, yeah, like you said, Travis, over the course of the regular season, he kind of took a step back, and he knew his role. And you hear anybody talk about him, and you hear his interviews, he is as discerning as he deflects as much as anybody else in the sport of not about him. And you can see that in the way he kind of finds his role in a team. And for him, that role in the regular season was taking a step back, letting some of the other guys take it. But then for him to have the awareness to be like, oh, this has to be a moment that I step up and the team needs me. And for him to be able just to come through and do it, I think says a lot about him and the kind of player he is too. Because you're able to fit in a lot of this. Some guys can do one thing and do it really well. They have to be the guy or nothing else. But for Zed Williams, I mean, I know Dillon Ward won the MVP, but if Dillon Ward has maybe 45 saves, Zed Williams is probably the MVP.
Yeah, and you mentioned Eli McLaughlin not being there, but I mean, Ryan Lee was one of the best players in the league all year. Mm-hmm. He's one of the top scorers in the league. You think about taking Dane Smith away from Buffalo, and yeah, there's still a bunch of really good pieces, but that's your guy.
Yeah.
Colorado didn't have their guy for the entire finals, and you only lose by 1 in game 1, and then you go ahead and win games 2 and 3. There aren't a lot of teams at any level in any sport that can do it without the guy who's the guy on your offense, and Colorado did it.
They did, and they did it in a tough environment, and I mean, and they did it against a team in Buffalo that I think a lot of people maybe would have assumed that by now they would have had 2 championships, maybe 3. I mean, you look at, of course, the last season and a half were canceled, and their window, it looked like the window was wide open. All of a sudden, it's closing a little bit more. Some guys are getting a little older. I think they're going to be right back there again this season. I'm not saying that they're not going to be contending once again, but every time you don't win one, the window closes a little bit, right? And I feel like starting in 2019, when they had such a great team then too, that was kind of their window opening, and they haven't won a championship yet.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't won since 2008. And the offense is one thing. I think it's the back end with Matt Vince where you feel like the window closes.
Yeah.
Because he turned 40 during this postseason. It's clearly he hasn't slowed down, because he's still one of, if not the best goaltender in the indoor game, though Dillon Ward obviously had something to say about that in these finals. But Vince was spectacular. He only gave up 10 goals in this finals. More often than not, Vince giving up 10 goals for that Buffalo team, you're going to win almost every single week.
Yeah.
And you got to give a lot of credit to Dillon Ward and the defense at the other end for Colorado for not letting that happen. But that's where you feel like I think the window could be closing, is that how many more years of Matt Vince being this good do you have?
Yeah, and you think about how they formulated that team and then brought Vince in. That's also, he came in later on, obviously late in his career. So if they are able to find somebody either in the draft or acquisition-wise to help fill that gap after he is done, I mean, it could be around another 5 years. I don't know. I mean, they could win another 3.
He's like the Tom
They could
Brady.
win 3 of the next 5 championships, and everyone's not talking about this.
He's
right?
like the Tom Brady of the NLL,
Yeah.
Matt Vince. He's going to play until he's 45.
Yeah, we'll see how Buffalo sort of responds to this next year, because I think that'll be really interesting. The East is tough and getting tougher.
Yeah.
We kind of bashed the West a little bit all year long, but the West at the end of the day had the last laugh.
It's true.
And so did Dillon Ward. 55 saves on 63 shots.
And I want to mention, I rewatched this game earlier this week after Saturday night, and watching the fourth quarter, first of all, to see all those goals that were scored, and then things came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
The defenses were like, no more. But the fourth quarter, the penalty kill against a really good Buffalo team, and Colorado goes man down, and they have got a guy in the box for 2 minutes with about 5 minutes remaining.
Yeah.
And they kill off that penalty with a 2-goal lead. That is big-time stuff. That is championship-level stuff.
Yeah.
To finish off. That was proving, this isn't a fluke. We are the team this year.
Yeah, because at that point you cut the lead to 1 and anything can happen.
Right.
Right.
Then it's a new game.
And then you don't know what can happen. And you keep that cushion against a good offense like that. You don't let them get out to a run. You don't let them start and get a spark, because I think that's what Buffalo was kind of missing, was kind of that spark goal. We saw Byrne try a couple of crazy things, down that stretch to try and get everybody going. But Ward was really good at the end. I mean, he was not going to be stopped on this day. And that was, I was saying this, I felt like, looking at it hindsight, that was the prediction we should have made. It said if Colorado were to win, Ward was going to be the MVP with 50-plus saves. Oh, congratulations.
I said that last week.
I'm talking about myself right now.
Okay, well,
internally, that's what I should have said.
I just want to put it out there.
And we agreed on that.
I did pick Buffalo, but I did say at the end of last week's show, you can go back and listen, that if Colorado wins, Dillon, it's because Dillon Ward has a terrific game.
And he was
great in game 2, too.
Right, and you always know with Dillon Ward, he has the ability to make that happen. Some guys are consistent. Some guys do other things really well. He has the ability to do exactly what he did in the finals. And there aren't many that can. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, there's guys that go off and have great games, but in the biggest moment, I trust Dillon Ward.
Yeah, he's won a lot. There's probably you can count them on maybe 2 or 3 fingers, the guys that you can trust to do that in the cage in the NLL, and he's one of them. Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right to him right now. We spoke to Dillon Ward. So the MVP of the NLL Finals, champion Colorado Mammoth, Dillon Ward joins us now. Dillon, thanks for the time, man. What's it been like since Saturday? Has it all set in yet?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've been having some fun with the trophy, taking around Denver. Had a good party after the game on Saturday night, and feeling it today. But no, it's been awesome.
What's the best thing you've done with the trophy so far?
I think just being with it, being able to. We have it. We won the championship. It's our trophy for the year, and just be able to parade it around town. We took it out to lunch with us yesterday, and a couple spots in between before we went to a watch party for the Avs. And we got stopped by a lot of people who were fired up for us, and were congratulating us, asking for pictures and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
I think one of the coolest things about having seen you guys go through winning this championship was the crowds, whether it was there in Colorado or in Buffalo, and then they're showing you guys on the big screen during Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals back at Ball Arena. The crowd to me in both places, and especially your fans, has just been unbelievable. Explain how that's made you feel as a lacrosse player, and if there's been any other time you felt like this, because it seems to have been really special.
Yeah, it's been incredible. The fans throughout the entire championship were awesome. They were so loud in Buffalo and in Colorado. And, afterwards to see the Avs give us a bit of a shout out on the Jumbotron during their game was incredible. And, again, like I said, when we were walking around yesterday with the trophy, a handful of people who stopped us, told us they were at the game, and it was so awesome to see the Avs show it on the Jumbotron. So it's been really cool. The fan support's been incredible. My social media has been going bananas. I haven't been able to keep up with it, but it's been a lot of fun.
How satisfying was this run? You went in as the 3 seed due to the tiebreakers and all that, but still you had to go on the road, and then the Bandits favored, and everyone talking about them all year long. What was this run like? How great has it been, the feeling of being able to be that underdog and go and win it all?
Yeah, it's been special. I want to say we were underdogs in every single game this playoffs. And, to lose Ryan Lee in the conference finals, and then Eli after game 1 of the championship series, we were just a resilient group. We stuck together. We found a way to not only win 1 game, but to win 2 and win a championship series. And this group was awesome. There was no doubt in our room ever. And, we just always had each other's back.
You said there's no doubt. Where did that belief come from? Why?
I think it's just, it was instilled in us from our coaches. They believed in the group that we had. They thought they didn't think that us losing Ryan Lee and Eli McLaughlin were going to, be the end of us. And, they instilled some game plans that led to our success. And, obviously having Zed Williams go off the way he did in the championship series was something special. And if you were to ask him about it, he wouldn't talk about himself for a second. But that's just the kind of guy he is. It was a special win, top to bottom.
You've won a lot of places throughout your career. You've won a number of championships. Where does winning an NLL title rank with all the work you've put in indoors?
Yeah, it's got to be up there near the top. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of very special teams and a lot of very talented teams. And but to win a championship with Colorado Mammoth and my now home of Denver, Colorado is something special. And I know this organization really cares a lot about this team. Our fan base cares a lot about this team, and to bring this back to the city of Denver is awesome.
What was the common trait among some of these championship teams? What major series lacrosse, world championship with Canada on the indoor stage, MLL as well? Was there something underlying trait that kind of connected all these? Correct me if I missed any either along the way too.
There's a couple, but that's all right.
I'm trying. It's a lot to remember off the top of my head.
I honestly, the one thing that really sticks out to all those teams was just the locker room and, just how much, the guys got along and how much everyone cares about each other. It's so cliche to talk about how important a locker room is, but, it really does come down to that. And you need guys who care about each other and have each other's back. And, like I said, we lost our two leading scorers in our playoff run. And if we didn't care about them as much as we did, and we didn't get along as well as we did in that locker room, who knows if we were able to pull that out against Buffalo. So I think, each team was different. Each fabric was different. But at the end of the day, the camaraderie and the way that the teams were able to gel was what led us to those championships.
I mean, you guys defensively in this series against Buffalo, Buffalo was held to single digits once all season in terms of scoring. You guys do it in back-to-back games to win. They were talking about it on the broadcast, and I wonder from your perspective, you guys obviously did a really good job keeping those shots outside, which probably helped you. Mm-hmm. What was the game plan in order to do that? Because it seems so simple, hey, make them shoot from further out, but you guys were able to execute when other people weren't.
Yeah. I guess I can say it now, but our game plan was to make the lefties beat us. We know that they have very strong righties, and Tahoka had 5 goals on us in game 1. Dane Smith is obviously Dane Smith. And we just felt like for us to be successful, we really wanted to make the lefties have to do most of the work. And, anytime that Dane had the ball or Tahoka had the ball and they were trying to get to the goal, we sent doubles early, tried to get the ball out of their stick. And, we did a really good job of doing that and then making them the rest of their offense take shots from, not as desirable spots, which were from the outside, mostly down the alleys. We were able to smother rebounds. They're a really good team at flying around for rebounds and getting second, third, fourth possession. So we just did a really good job of limiting their opportunities, forcing guys who we wanted to shoot, and capitalizing when we had the chance to get the ball to our offense.
Knowing Matt Vince is on the other end, is that at all in the back of your mind, knowing, hey, I got to also step up my game here too?
Not really. Obviously, I know Matt Vince is the best goalie to ever play in the NLL, but I'm not actively thinking about that. I'm more worried about myself and our team and our game and, just making one save at a time and giving ourselves a chance to win the game.
The penalty kill in the fourth quarter, was that when you felt I'm sure you're not giving up a second, but you guys kill that penalty off, that felt like that was the defining moment down the stretch where you guys were going to win this thing?
Personally, I did. I thought when we killed that, I was feeling really good. Our defense, was doing a really good job, and their offense just really couldn't get much going. When we killed that penalty off, I in the back of my mind, my thought was we did it. And, obviously there was still some time that we needed to kill off. But like you said, I feel like that was the defining moment when we killed that penalty. It was all right, we had one hand on the trophy at that point.
How surreal was this season? You guys hadn't been out on the floor for a year and a half. You kind of think about that. It's kind of crazy to think about, right?
Yeah, it was special. And, again, like we got into the playoffs at 10-8. We weren't by any means the top dog in the league. We grinded our way into the playoffs, and we grinded our way through the playoffs. It was special, and it was a special group to win this with, special organization, and like you said, it'd been a year and a half. So to be able to come out after COVID and win this championship after so much downtime, it's awesome.
All right, so when do we see PLL Dillon Ward here now in the field game?
Yeah, so the plan is for me to be there in Baltimore this week. I'm not sure the status on whether I'm going to play or not, but yeah, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be practicing, getting my reps in, and seeing how I feel. Definitely have some bumps and bruises from the NLL season, but yeah, hopefully we'll be back on the PLL field sooner rather than later.
But a group of guys, right? All kind of doing the same thing. All those NLL guys from both the Bandits, of course, the Chaos ties, but you too. I mean, that's quite the transition to make in a quick amount of time.
Yeah, it is quick, and that's the life of a professional lacrosse player right there.
I mean, I think we talked about this before. How long does it take you to feel comfortable again, like playing field lacrosse?
Honestly, it depends. It is a feel. Like, you just got to get back to the feel of it. At the end of the day, I'm still a goalie, so I need to stop the ball, hopefully more times with my stick rather than my body in field with no equipment. But yeah, we'll get out there this week. We'll see how I'm feeling. I've got my gear here. Probably get some reps before I head out to Baltimore on Thursday, and yeah, we'll just take it from there.
Hey, you know what the positive is? I don't think you're going to have to make 50 saves in a PLL game, so that's a positive.
That's true.
Does that mean you have to stop celebrating? You don't get that much time. There's a quick turnaround.
It'll be different celebrating.
Okay. Right. That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Dillon, man, congratulations again. It was an incredible run that you guys went on to win this championship. Enjoy it, and we're looking forward to seeing you back on the PLL field, all right?
No, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, guys.
So congratulations once again to the Mammoth, but don't fret because more NLL later on this week. Protected rosters are due Thursday because you've got a new team.
Quick turnover. And if you're the Mammoth and Bandits, it's like the NBA. Like we just finished the finals and all of a sudden you got the draft on Thursday.
Yeah, so you got the Las Vegas...
The Desert Dogs.
Desert Dog. I know it was some sort of dog. I was going to say river dogs, but no, I mean, and there could be a river dog at some point. Who knows? Dogs test well.
I can't stop thinking about Ted Lasso.
The Diamond
Dogs.
Yeah,
whenever I think of the Desert Dogs.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we can get some merch going on.
Well, I'm sure there will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do have merch.
Yeah, there's plenty of it. And
I have to check that out.
Go to NLL.com for more. All right, let's go to the PLL. They are all about the merch.
Have merch.
They invented a whole team, the Beans, to sell merchandise.
They did,
which
correct.
Has worked. So don't fault them for that.
No, it's good.
So they just had another weekend, and
Long Island.
In Long Island, and they inducted a Hall of Fame class and all of that. But we also had games. So what are the headlines that have come out of this weekend as we look ahead to Baltimore this weekend?
First off, you mentioned the Hall of Fame. Those jackets were stellar. The Hall of Fame jackets, the gold. Tom doesn't like it. Tom, please, let's.
I didn't.
We need to just get a shot on Tom.
I think that I'm glad that the greats of the game were honored. That's first and foremost, and I think that there was a place for that, and that was necessary.
You don't like the jackets?
I just don't know about the color. I mean, the NFL has the gold jacket, and I feel like that is just. I don't understand it. I think maybe you could have picked a different color.
What color would you have liked?
I don't know.
You can't go green because Augusta.
Yep, right. And there's example A right there.
You can't do like navy or black because then they're just any other jacket.
You could have put a nice little crest on there or something if you wanted. You could have done a light blue. A light blue would have been nice, maybe.
Okay.
Or a different iteration that wasn't almost a spitting image of the NFL Hall of Fame gold jacket. No, I understand what the colors are.
All right.
League.
Well, anyway, I'm sorry I brought that up.
I am too.
I didn't see that coming. I was a fan of the gold jackets.
It was something
the guys look sharp.
I had not expressed that to anybody in my life.
No.
But it was an internal conversation I had that I was like, the gold, it's too similar to the NFL for me. But I'm glad they honored the people. I just didn't like the color of the jacket.
All right. Anyway, let's get some PLL headlines from what we saw on the field at Hofstra. I'll go with my first one. Archers bullseye. They hang 20 goals on the Cannons. This was a game at halftime on ABC on Saturday afternoon, and then the second half happened, and the Archers just like bulldozed the team formerly known as the Boston Cannons. I think this Archers team being 2-1 now to start the year. Without Grant Ament, he was a late scratch. It looked like he was actually going to go for this game, and then it ended up they kept him off the field. So we'll see what that means for him coming back. But also without Connor Fields, who's been playing with the Bandits here in the NLL. Those are two good pieces, but I think we've seen an emergence from Matt Moore, who seems to be a really good addition to this offense. Tom Schreiber, you know what you're going to get. And Will Manny leads the league in like every offensive statistical category beside assists. So I think it feels like they're starting to like this is their potential. Like they have the potential to hang 20 goals, I think, on almost anybody in the league with the talent they have on offense. I was glad to see them get there against a Cannons team that I think early in the year felt like it was a team that could contend for a title. Yeah,
I mean, this is what should be the norm for the Archers.
Yes.
It has been the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Probably should have been for the last 4 years. I mean, we talked about it prior to the season, I believe.
Yeah.
Or maybe even after they had a bad offensive performance in week 1. So, yeah, this is what it should be. We shouldn't be surprised by this, right? With the talent they have on their roster, this is what it is, and you should expect more of that moving forward.
Yeah. Holman, Manny.
They were called the Archers because of this.
Right. No, that was the whole
That was
theme.
the reason that was their name. Right?
Yes.
That because they had all these great scorers, that was the reason they invented this name around this team. And here we are, year 4, week 3, and they're saying, here we go, we did it.
We're hopefully getting there.
We figured it out. And you're right, they've been great the last 2 weeks. We'll see if they can do this moving forward.
I would like to see this continue.
Right, yeah.
I'm on the bandwagon. I've been on the Archers bandwagon since day one.
I know.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, but back in the Kevin Rice era of the Archers, back in 2019. And all right, so I'm going to move on.
Yeah, what do you got?
I'm going to focus on the Chrome here, and mine's going to be Sudan is shining, because Tim Sudan has done, shining Chrome helmet, the whole deal. They just debuted the new helmets this past weekend. So you look at what the Chrome started with, and I'm glad that we've had some time now, because you have a little bit of history here in the PLL to see where a team started and where they are now, which I love. Finally you can have some retrospect and all of that.
Yeah.
2019, they were an offense so more or less guided by Wolf, Gutterding, Gaudette, and Crotty.
Yeah.
And 2020, they're a team guided by Wisnauskas, Nickturn, Malloy. 2022. I don't know what year it is. 2022, it's Logan Wisnauskas, Brendan Nickturn, you've got Dillon Malloy, and then as a couple other guys get their mix in, Jackson Morrill and Colin Heacock are also a part of this offense. You have Justin Anderson on the midfield, has been really good. Ryan Terafenko, just a Tim Sudan type guy.
Oh, yeah.
JT Giles Harris on defense. They're a completely different team than when they started. And it feels like 4 years isn't a long time, but it feels like a long time that it was the Jordan Wolf Chrome era, right?
Well, and this was one of the things we were talking about, the different eras last week, about like how it feels like the league has kind of turned a page because of all the different retirements we saw of guys who had been kind of the guys of professional lacrosse in the MLL that made this transition to the PLL. And this is one of those teams. Like, it's like all of a sudden, all the guys for 2-3 years that we were talking about in the college game now are professionals, and now this is their team. They're not just like an extra piece on a team with these veteran guys. It's okay, this offense is now yours.
Right.
Let's see what you can do.
And I think that's the future, obviously.
Yeah.
We talked so much about the Atlas, who lost to the Whipsnakes, but that's a
We'll get to that in a second.
We'll get to that in a second. But we've talked a lot about the Atlas. Maybe now that the Chrome are 3-0, people will start looking and be like, oh, they've completely changed the way they look, the way they are formulated, and what they look like. And they've done it with a lot of talent. And you get a draft with Logan Wisnauskas and Brendan Nickturn. That's as good as a draft as anybody, right?
And you know what? You talk about this dates back to the Rattlers, like the type of player that Tim Sudan likes. Like Nickturn and Wisnauskas fit right into that mold. And Wisnauskas is a quiet, I don't need to talk to the media. I don't need to do anything on Instagram and social media. I'm just going to go out there and play and be great. And you look at a guy like Garrett Thule, who had come from Army, like a Nickturn, who just was this great leader and the type of guy you wanted to have in the locker room. And that's what you see from a guy like Nickturn. These are despite the fact that it's like a new era, it's the same type of guys that you saw Tim Sudan coach with the Rattlers.
Right, and for having those two together, and it's interesting because you have a Gray Teat with Atlas right now, and they're also different personalities a bit, and you have Nick Turnwisnauskas, very different, but complement each other personality-wise really well. Not just on the field, but with the way they conduct themselves, they really work together, I think, really well, and that's helped them really be successful.
And also, I have to say, like seeing Dillon Malloy, the way he's played at the beginning of this year, like this is what you knew I think he could be coming out of college when he was at Brown, won a Tewaaraton. Like, he is... There's a reason he won a Tewaaraton and got Brown to the Final Four that year under Lars Tiffany. Like, he is great. And he's, like, in shape. He's slimmed down. I couldn't believe... Maybe it's like the not seeing the shoulder pads and stuff, but, like, I couldn't believe how good he looked on the field. Like, he is there and ready to play. And seeing him excited to play in the PLL, that is another different differentiator on this offense.
Yeah, it's really interesting just how some of these teams have changed their makeup and done it so effectively, over the course of the 4 years that we've had this league, and I think they've done a really good job of that. They play the Atlas this week. More on that in a moment. That's my next headline.
Speaking of the Atlas, they had a tough loss, first loss of the season for them, and that leads me to my next headline. Welcome to the snake pit. Because
good one.
The Whip Snakes, they haven't gone anywhere. Like, I mean, this team obviously,
which I said last week.
You're right, and
we had this conversation.
And I said, I thought the Atlas.
If you're going to take credit for your NLL takes, I'll take credit for my PLL ones.
You can take credit for this. I mean, you go up and down with this Whip Snakes team. Joe Nardellas, despite the fact that he lost the battle to Trevor Baptiste this past week, he still is the second best face-off man in the league. He's up there over 60%. The balanced offense that, oh, by the way, we mentioned Zed Williams. He's going to get added to this offense, which is just absurd, because then you look at the midfield, and, like, the attack unit's been fine, like, balanced out, but this midfield between Chanachuk, Cole, Brad Smith, and Connor Kirst, those guys are like that. They're running at you in waves. And then, I mean, the defense is the defense. Like, you know what you're going to get from Kyle Bernlohr and the guys that are in front of him. They have been one of the reasons they've won back-to-back titles and have been to the championship all 3 years here in the PLL. But all the balance they have up and down the field, you're going to add Zed Williams to the mix. This team they're still legit.
I mean, you can tell. I mean, and it's interesting that there's experience, at the end of the day. The Atlas team, as we talked about, very young, and that makes a difference, especially when you're going up against a team like the Whip Snakes who can handle the ebbs and flows of a game. And I think that the Whip Snakes have that experience, and they have the experience of winning now. They did it a couple times. They've been in the championship 3 times in a row, so it's hard to pick against them in that facet. And like you said, they get Zed Williams back too, so watch out, rest of the league, because they haven't gone. They've been the best team, from day one for the most. Obviously, Chaos won it last year, but still, I mean, they've been the most successful thus far for a reason. And that's why last week when we talked about this, I thought, not just yet. You know what I mean? The changing of the guard hasn't happened yet. It could during the playoffs. Who knows? But at this point, not yet.
Yeah. By the way, one shout out for the Atlas. Congrats to Kobe Smith for that first career goal. Winding fire in 2-point range. Yeah. That's what we saw throughout his Towson career, and it's why I knew he was going to thrive in this environment in the PLL with the rules and the increased transition game and all that. I mean, he's going to be a special player.
He probably would have had some 2s if there was a line in college.
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's got range, man.
What's a rules year, right? Rule change year?
I think the 2-point line is behind the face-off and some other things.
The goal mouth, yes.
Goal mouth.
Everything
takes. Got to worry about the goal mouth.
The goal mouth. We're talking about that every 2 years ad nausea.
What's your last one?
Mine is the shots you save. Like the love you save, like the Jackson 5 song, like stop the shots you save. So this is looking ahead to this weekend, and you have a couple of goalies here, Atlas and Chrome, going at a good game. We just talked about these teams, the 2 younger ones in the league. You got Concannon, just made 17 saves against the Whip Snakes, even though they lost, stopping 62% of the shots he faced. And then you got Sean Scanoni, who's been pretty good too, 54%, 12 saves against the Water Dogs for the Chrome. So this is a battle between 2 good young young teams, and I think it's going to come down to which one of these goalies has a better day, because the offenses, as we talked about, really dynamic. You got all these young players out there. Gray, Teat, Wisnowskis, Nick Turn. Who's going to be the best goalie on the day, Kincannon or Scanoni? And I like both of them, and a couple of CAA guys, too.
Yeah, shout out to UMass and Hofstra. Kincannon having a chance to go home, got to play on his home field from Hofstra back in the day. But yeah, I love both of these goalies. I think guys that I felt like when they were in college didn't. Actually, it's next week, Atlas Chrome. Apparently.
Yeah. Moving forward.
Yeah. Sorry,
I'm looking ahead.
Oh yeah. So I
thought they had good games this weekend,
right.
And now I'm excited for the shots they save next weekend.
Both these guys, when they were in college, like we had a chance to see how good they were. And you would talk to like whether it was Greg Cannella or Seth Tierney in school. They knew what they had. They didn't quite get the shine when they were in school, but like now they're getting it. Like they are two of the top 8-9 goalies in the world.
Right.
Like
they have the spots.
Yeah.
Right? They're playing in the PLL. Like that's the top 10.
There aren't a lot of spots, and they're there.
Many. There aren't many. You're right.
And they're proving that they're that good, that they're staying there.
Yeah.
That's so good for them.
Yeah. And you look at and see what the next generation of that will be, and it feels like that's going to be more and more of those guys. If they think about who they took the place of in one way or another, and obviously John Galloway moving on from the Chrome, and Sean Scanoni filling those shoes nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. So PLL is at Homewood Field, Hopkins this weekend for a big weekend. A couple of night games, Friday and Saturday, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that's correct. So, and one of the the people that we talked about a lot, Logan Wisnowskis obviously played for such a great coach, and Bobby Benson there at Maryland, and
offensive
coordinator, and did such a great job with that program, and now taking the job over with Providence. Such a cool move for him too. So that's what we're transitioning to now, obviously.
Yeah. So college coaching search has kind of come to an end for all these Division I schools. Bobby Benson, one of those coaches that's in a new spot. We had a chance to catch up with the new Friars head coach earlier this week. So the new coach of Providence College, Bobby Benson, joins us now. Bobby, congratulations on the new gig. What made Providence the right fit for you? Because I know this has been obviously something you probably have wanted. What made Providence the right fit at the right time for you to become a head coach?
Yeah, I was super excited to get the opportunity at Providence. It's a school that's really been close to my family and my heart for a while. My wife's an alum. She speaks so highly of this school, and what's always impressed me is every single one of her friends love their experience at Providence College. They're all still attached together. They all still talk about it. They go back for reunion things. My wife's been able to be active on some of the boards in the business school and whatnot, and just their love for the school and the success of the athletic program there in the Big East and nationally made it a really great opportunity and made it kind of an ideal fit for me.
Yeah, you mentioned that opportunity, and I see that with Providence. The facility there, that lacrosse stadium that they share with the soccer program is just beautiful. It's awesome. I mean, it just feels like a place that you can compete. And you're in a conference in the Big East that obviously is competitive, but it feels like Providence could be right there competing with the top teams in the league as they have in the not too distant past. What do you see in terms of competing in that league and the opportunity with Providence?
We're really excited about our potential in the Big East. I think if you look at the other sports, basketball, soccer, hockey, maybe not in the Big East, but even nationally, they've all had a ton of success. And what they've done with the facility, what they've done with the athletic department, their commitment to being a great lacrosse team is unwavering. And I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited about our potential in the conference and nationally.
Your offensive scheme obviously has been well known from what you did at Hopkins, and then obviously here in the last 2 years at Maryland. How do you look at it? Because even the last 2 years at Maryland, you guys had all the talent in the world, but they were different because of the different personnel you have every year. Like, take me inside your mind when you see your team at the beginning of a season and how you try to develop the scheme as to what you have in terms of personnel and how that all fits.
Yeah, we want to play an offense that's as free-flowing and as little scripted as possible. Obviously there's been some little quick hitters that we ran in the past and different things we've done with some schemes, but for the most part, we want to take the power out of the coach's hands and put it in the players' hands. And I think to do that, you start the year with a blank slate and it starts to develop and evolve. It's almost more artistic than scientific at times. And you start to figure out how you can have success. These two are really good in the pick game. This guy's really good coming off a screen, and then how can we kind of figure out a way to let them free flow and play and attack in ways that, help us the most. And when you combine that with then, each game going in and saying, well, this team might struggle in the invert, or if we pick with number 76, or if we pick on number, 12, those ththings can, kind of help move the needle as well. And ultimately, you just want to find a way to get a good shot on each possession. And, you put a lot of trust in the guys. We talk a ton about decision-making, risk management based on the shot clock, trying to keep pressure on the defense for all 60 seconds. We don't want to come down and get our guys on and throw the ball around for 20 seconds. And now we're playing a 40-second shot clock. We want to have pressure on them in the 4-on-4 and the 5-on-5 and the 6-on-6. But with that, we don't want to add any risk where we're going to take unnecessary chances early, because oftentimes if you make a defense defend for 60 seconds, you're going to end up with a good opportunity. And then you have to be ready to score it. But you can be pretty low risk if you're keeping pressure on a defense for 60 seconds. Opportunities start to pop up. And how can we put just enough pressure on a defense for an opportunity to pop up throughout the possession?
So obviously a lot of it is you put the power in the players' hands, as you mentioned. I wonder, how different or similar was it to coach these last two Maryland teams where you have an athlete like Jared Bernhardt that we may not have seen in college lacrosse ever, and then you go to obviously all the talent you had on this team this past year, but you don't have Jared Bernhardt, who obviously commanded so much attention. How similar or different were those two teams?
I think every team's very different and takes on a dynamic of its own. Jarrett was unbelievably good and unbelievably talented, but the other guys found a way to step up and do great things. I remember when I was at Hopkins in 07 and 08, coaching Paul Rabel, Stephen Pizer, when they left, it was, how are we going to score without, those guys? Because the only person I've coached that's close to Jarrett is probably Paul in terms of athleticism and just ability to kind of take over. Those guys in 2009 found their way, and each team's different. And I think that's the exciting part, is how can we mold, kind of form, this offensive identity this year, and how does this group come together, and really putting that in the players' hands. And, how are you guys going to find ways to be successful, and what can you do to help the team? And over the course of time, you just start tweaking it and massaging it and, moving the needle one way, then moving it back the other way. And you hope you find a nice little happy medium where you can wind up getting good shots on every possession.
Well, you mentioned Hopkins, and obviously throughout your career, you've had a chance to coach with some of the best in the game. Obviously, John Tillman here the last couple of years. Before that, it was Dave Petramala, Don Zimmerman early in your coaching career. Now that you're a head coach, what do you feel like you take away from some of those experiences that now you look to apply to Providence?
Oh, yeah, I think every coach you take something from, right? I think that's the ability to be a good assistant is probably the ability to learn and take something from all of those guys. And whether it's, the skill work of Coach Zim, or the poise of Coach Tillman, or the competitiveness and defensive schemes of Coach Petro, or the passion that Coach Toomey has, you try to take something from each one, and hopefully I can take something good from each one, and hopefully we can come together. And, I'm super excited to get up to Friartown, and I'm super excited to start working with the guys on that team, and look forward to, building our own identity and, getting competitive in the Big East.
Well, it's been a busy stretch here for you. Obviously, you win a national championship with Maryland. Now you go through the process of getting this head coaching job at Providence. And you're also getting ready for the World Games this summer as an assistant for the Team USA for sixes. You're down there at Baltimore now. We were talking about this before. Designing an offense for sixes has to be so unique in this process of coaching, because this hasn't been done before. Like, it's a blank slate in terms of strategy and how you coach this team. When you're trying to figure out how this works, what have you been trying to do here with Coach Andy Shea?
The sixes discipline has been really exciting. I came in not knowing what to expect. And as I told you before, I absolutely love it. I think that our youth would benefit greatly if they were playing sixes and not attack midi defense. I think that the college guys would benefit from playing sixes. And, hopefully we can fit it in some up in Providence. We fit it in at Maryland last year and played some. I think that I was benefited in sixes offense from probably the way we play offense at Maryland and at Hopkins. I spent a lot of time I'm a basketball junkie. So I spent a lot of time watching basketball offenses. A lot of what we do is basketball based, basketball motion offense ideas. And so I think that, when you combine a basketball motion offense and field lacrosse, you kind of form what you would want to do in sixes. And so that's kind of where we started. And then again, you just kind of massage it, mold it, move the needle one way, move the needle another way until you find something that not only works for the discipline, but works for the players you have on the team and also works hopefully against the players that you're going to play against. The one thing that I think is challenging is not knowing a ton about who we're going to play against, how they're going to play. There's going to be a lot of unfamiliar circumstances that probably come up throughout the games, being the first time ever, and how we navigate those will probably be important too.
Yeah, I was going to say the adjustments seem like they're going to be fascinating because, first of all, there's not a lot of time on the sideline, so making adjustments on the fly is going to be tough. But then, at halftime, between quarters, between games, it feels like that could be a huge part of this too.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes and what you're able to do and what works and what doesn't work. I think one thing in this discipline with a fast shot clock and super talented players, you don't want to overcoach. You can't slow down. You can't think. You've got to be able to go play. You've got to be able to react. You got to be able to take advantage of opportunities that come up. So, being able to kind of massage it the right way and point out the proper things without micromanaging it too much because it's up and down and you got to be ready to go.
You mentioned hoops. What teams or leagues, where do you look for some of this inspiration from?
Oh, well, I've always watched Providence College basketball.
There you go.
My wife's a PC alum. We've always watched Providence College basketball. So I love that. I dug into different things. I actually went back and a lot of what we ran at Hopkins was just my high school basketball offense, add a guy behind the goal. So we tried to, massage some things there. I actually went and watched a bunch of films during COVID, a bunch of breakdowns of European League basketball. Sometimes they play a little bit, probably more complex offenses. So, anywhere I can steal something, December's January can be a little bit of a slow time. So I'm always got a college hoops game on, an NBA game on, just trying to, see what I can figure out or watch or break down. But a lot of it came from Providence, of course.
Yeah, of course. The European leagues, we've had it. We, with our other network, FTF Sports, has been doing basketball in Italy and Germany and Spain, and the fluidity of some of those offenses in the cut. You're right. It's unlike anything you see sometimes in the United States here, hoops wise.
Yeah, our basketball coach at Hopkins, Josh Loeffler, had said, to go watch some of the European leagues. He gave me a couple of the teams. I can't remember who they were, but I just kind of started Google searching their offenses and seeing what I could come up with and then seeing how it can translate to lacrosse. And some things stick. Some things end up being absolutely ludicrous ideas that, kids probably think I'm insane for. But, if a couple of things stick here and there, we just, try to keep moving forward.
Yeah, the Providence College basketball team is great, and they were fueled by a Taylor Swift song during this run. I'm sure you're familiar. Is Taylor Swift coming to Providence men's lacrosse?
Hopefully. She's got an open invite. So if we can get her out, that would be awesome. And yeah, I saw that. It's exciting times in Friartown right now. They love their sports. They love their athletics. And, that's a great draw for me and hopefully a great draw for anybody else trying to get up to there.
And you get to be part of it here, Bobby. Congratulations once again. Good luck this summer with the World Games. We're looking forward to seeing Team USA and looking forward to seeing what you do up there in Friartown. Good luck, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Travis. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
So exciting times there at Providence College for Bobby Benson, and a guy that has been spoken about a lot for how good his offenses have been. It was really interesting to hear him kind of break down how he dissects like what he wants to do with the personnel he has and then how he lets it work.
Yeah, and another cool hire, and I love to see how some of these young coaches and guys that have been experienced too in the game are going to reinvigorate some of these programs.
Yeah, Big East's got a bunch of new coaches.
Yeah, it's going to be
Justin Turry's now at St. John's, Benson's at Providence. That conference, like we've seen Villanova kind of sneak up. Obviously, Denver and Georgetown have been at the top. Marquette has a brand new facility that they're building there in Milwaukee. So life is good. In
yeah,
Big East.
maybe we'll get some 2 bids in the NCAAs here with all that going on.
For sure.
And help the RPI numbers, which we know are so important.
I mean, they all play some of the best teams in the country
Gotta
every
win
year.
some of those
so
games.
now you got to win some.
Got to win some of those
for sure.
games. Unlike the ACC, they didn't win anything last year. One team, one bid league.
How does this always come back to hitting on the ACC?
Well,
huh?
I mean, they deserve it.
They do. You're right.
I'm sorry. Anyway, we've got some exciting stuff going on for you next week as we get ready for the Women's World Championships coming up in Towson. So we'll have a lot of great interviews. We're talking to a lot of the athletes that are involved. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, our show next week is going to be mostly focused on getting ready for the Women's World Championships in Towson, Maryland. It'll be our last show before the World Championships kick off later in the week. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Team USA looking to win another gold medal, but Canada is going to be there. Australia and England have shown up in the past. So going to be fun to see how things play out. And on a very big stage, there's a lot of expectations for this Women's World Championship in Towson, Maryland. U.S. looking to win their first one on home soil in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Scheduled to appear on the show, Kylie O'Miller, Marie McCool, Dempsey Arsenal. So make sure to tune in for some of those Team USA stars, their mentality heading into this huge event for them. They kind of kick off the summer with the World Games, the Sixes happening as well later on. So looking forward to just kind of previewing that for you next week too.
So make sure you stay tuned to that. We will see you next week. But as for now, he's Tom. I'm Travis. We'll see you later.